No shortcuts. You follow this exactly as written or you're out. That's what our new manager barked at me in front of the entire warehouse crew. He wanted blind obedience, so I gave it to him, and it broke his own warehouse. I used to work in this medium-sized logistics warehouse. Concrete floors that permanently smelled like cardboard and cheap coffee. We had a solid crew, and we got the job done. Part of getting the job done meant ignoring the daily closing checklist. This thing was a relic, a laminated piece of paper bolted to the break room wall, probably printed back when flip phones were cutting edge. Most of the steps were completely obsolete. We just do the core stuff, lock the bays, secure the registers, shut down the forklifts, and head home. Everyone knew the drill. Then came David. David was our new floor manager. He wore polo shirts tucked into khakis and carried a clipboard like it was a holy text. He had zero warehouse experience, but he loved one word: accountability. He wanted to make his mark, and he decided the best way to do that was to treat a crew of veterans like toddlers who couldn't tie their own shoes. But I didn't realize how far he was willing to take it until the Tuesday afternoon he decided to make an example out of me.
It was 4:55 p.m., 5 minutes to closing. I was wiping down my station, keys in hand, ready to clock out. The rest of the guys were already grabbing their coats. Out of nowhere, David marches up to my bay. The clipboard is pressed against his chest. He doesn't pull me aside. He doesn't lower his voice. He waits until the warehouse is dead quiet, then he points a pen right at my chest. "Did you secure the secondary ventilation grates?" he asked. I just stared at him. The secondary grates, they had been painted shut 6 years ago. I chuckled, thinking he was joking. "David, those are sealed. We don't touch them." His face went red. He slammed his hand against the metal rack next to me. The sound echoed across the entire floor. Every single head turned our way. "I didn't ask for a history lesson," he snapped, loud enough for the guys in shipping to hear. "I asked if you followed the checklist, but I guess accountability is too difficult for you." I could feel the heat creeping up my neck. My hands gripped the rag I was holding so tight my knuckles turned white. My coworkers were shifting uncomfortably, staring at the floor. It wasn't just that he was correcting me, it was the way he did it, like I was a thief caught stealing from the register. "From now on," David announced to the silent room, "we follow procedure. Every line, every time. No shortcuts. If you skip a step on the closing checklist, I will write you up for insubordination. Am I understood?" I looked at the sealed vent. Then I looked at his smug, self-satisfied face. He had his victory. He had asserted his dominance over the warehouse floor. I swallowed my pride, nodded, and mumbled an apology. He smirked, turned around, and walked back to his air-conditioned office. He thought he had put me in my place. But as I grabbed my coat that evening, I wasn't angry anymore. I was reading the laminated checklist on the wall, and I was smiling. This wasn't about revenge, not technically. This was just malicious compliance. If David wanted the checklist followed to the exact letter, who was I to argue with management? The next day, my shift ended at 5 p.m. At 4:30, I walked over to the break room and took a picture of the ancient checklist. I zoomed in on the fine print. Ugh, it was beautiful. Stuff we hadn't done in a decade, things that didn't even make sense anymore. There was a rule about inspecting all emergency exits, not just the main ones, all 12 of them, including the ones in the abandoned annex at the far end of the property. There was a mandate to physically test the backup lighting system. That meant shutting off the main breakers for 5 minutes to ensure the battery-operated lights flickered on. And the best part? The checklist was sequential. Step 14 couldn't be started until Step 13 was signed off. Usually, I helped the shipping guys finish their pallets before we closed. Not today. Today, I had a clipboard of my own. I grabbed a fresh pen, I looked down the aisle, and I started my compliance. It's 4:45 p.m. I walk past the shipping guys. They ask for a hand with the last pallet. I shake my head. Can't. Gotta check the fire doors. I walk the entire perimeter of the building. I push every single heavy metal door. I check the hinges. I log the time. It takes 20 minutes. By the time I get back, it's 5:05. We're past closing time. The guys are standing around, coats on, waiting for me to finish so they can lock the loading dock. Step 22. Test the backup lights. I walk to the main breaker panel. I pull the giant lever down. The entire warehouse plunges into total darkness. "Hey, what the hell?" someone yells from aisle 4. "Checklist," I yell back. We wait in the dark. 5 agonizing minutes. The backup lights barely glow. I turn the power back on. It's 5:25 p.m. People are getting restless. Murmurs of annoyance are spreading. But I keep going. Step 23, step 24, methodical, slow, perfect. It's 5:55 p.m., almost a full hour past closing time. Everyone is still here because nobody can leave until the final alarm is set, and the alarm can't be set until my checklist is handed in. David storms out of his office. He looks at his watch, then glares at the crew gathered by the exit. Finally, he marches up to me. His face is a mix of confusion and pure rage. "What is going on here?" he demands, his voice echoing in the empty warehouse. "Why is nobody clocked out? Why did the power go down? You're costing the company an hour of overtime for 6 people. He's breathing heavy. The whole crew is watching, waiting for me to get fired. I don't flinch. I slowly lift the clipboard. I tap the laminated paper with my pen. Line 47, just doing exactly what you asked. David freezes. He looks at the paper. He looks at my perfectly checked boxes. Inspect all perimeter doors. Test emergency breakers. He opens his mouth to yell, but nothing comes out. He realizes he's trapped. If he tells me to stop, he breaks his own golden rule in front of everyone. He didn't say a word. He just snatched the clipboard from my hand, his face burning bright red, and walked away without making eye contact with anyone. We all clocked out at 6:05 p.m. The company had to pay out 6 hours of unexpected overtime, all because David wanted to play dictator over a sealed air vent. The next Monday, I walked into the break room. The ancient laminated checklist was gone. In its place was a shiny new piece of paper. It had exactly 5 steps on it. The backup lights and perimeter doors were magically removed. David never brought up accountability to me ever again. In fact, he barely spoke to me for the next 6 months unless it was absolutely necessary. He learned that when you demand absolute obedience to a broken system, the system breaks you. But I'll be honest, I know it sounds petty, and maybe it was. My coworkers weren't exactly thrilled with me that night. They just wanted to go home to their families, and I forced them to stand around in a dark warehouse for an extra hour just to prove a point to a bad boss. Some of them told me I went too far, that I made them collateral damage in my little war. And honestly, they might have a point. But the way I see it, an hour of waiting bought us years of peace. So what do you think? Was I a jerk for keeping my coworkers late just to humble a micromanaging boss? Or was it a necessary sacrifice for the greater good? Let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe if you love malicious compliance. See you in the next one.